Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I am here, as always, with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, how you doing, bro?
Good to be back, mate. Good to be back. Yeah, it's all right, good, mate. All well and good. Last couple of episodes before you're getting well-earned rest, mate. Well-earned rest.
Yeah.
Off to Rome. You deserve it, mate. You deserve it. You're working very hard this season. We both have. So yeah, go and enjoy yourself. So hopefully to get another couple of episodes out before then, and then if anything breaks, you guys will be seeing me solo. Which always feels like there's been far too many of those, mate. But I don't mind. As I said, you're well due a rest, mate. You're well due a rest. So yes, before you're off to sunny Italy, nice to get a couple of episodes in.
Absolutely. It's 36 degrees out there at the moment. I'm actually going to melt. But I mean, guys, you know, we've got a few interesting topics to talk about. I appreciate it's been a bit slow on the Villa front, and as I'm sure many of you have seen, I've become Villa Twitter enemy number one. Do you know what? I want to talk about it. I do want to talk about it because I've not tweeted.
I did wonder whether you would. Yeah, I did. And whether you would.
I'm almost a bit anxious to tweet. Basically, I was scrolling TikTok the other day, right, and then I've stumbled across this video of Leon Bailey essentially like shoving some woman, and I'm like, this isn't a good look. So I kind of put it on Twitter, and I was like, oh, you know, this is not really a great look for Leon. And you know what? I didn't think it would like. I mean, I'm not big on Twitter. I've got like 1,500 followers. I'm lucky to get like 10 people liking a tweet, and I think there's a few Villa accounts that picked it up and shared it. Obviously, I mean, to be fair, mate, since we've recorded as well, obviously, like with Leon, he's had this car accident that his family were in, which is obviously a really traumatizing thing. Something I wasn't really aware of at the time either when I tweeted it, which is kind of why I tweeted it. I was like, well, you know what? I was just a bit shocked by Leon's behaviour. And obviously the context now of knowing Leon was obviously off to go and see his family, that puts a lot of into perspective. So I completely understand that. But man, I got absolutely destroyed on Twitter. I've got absolutely destroyed. And, you know, there's people, you guys who listen to the podcast will absolutely know. And people who follow me on Twitter should know. I adore Leon Bailey. We're the minority of people that actually like Leon Bailey. And I've got so many people in my mentions being like, typical digging out a Villa player, you know, it's typical Villa fans, all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, whoa, like, it was all a bit mad. I've not really had that kind of, I don't want to call it a pylon. There's like 60 quote tweets. That's not a pylon. And people
it's not far off.
No, yeah,
far off.
It's definitely like I mean, you know, we're not really like controversial. We don't really share controversial opinions on here. I mean, because we don't really believe controversial opinions. So I've never really had that kind of interaction. But I thought I'd mention it on the podcast purely because, like, for one, just to kind of not clear my name, but you know what I mean? Just mention it. Obviously, I hope Leon and his family are okay. That whole situation doesn't look very nice. And yeah, I mean, I totally take on board what people are saying, you know, look for context and all this kind of stuff. I think as well, you know, people like, I don't expect everyone to know, obviously. Both Dan and I work in social, so it's kind of like we're always on our phones. So to be honest, especially while there's nothing going on, I'm not going to be checking Villa Twitter every day just to check on, you know, for the tiniest of updates and stuff like that. So I wasn't actually really that aware of what's going on with Leon. But yeah, obviously hope they're all well. That does change my perspective on the video. And you know, all that matters is that him and his family are fine and doing well. Doesn't matter what I think on Twitter, because as you guys will know, I love Leon and will know that I wouldn't look to dig him out at all or for no reason. So let's get into what we're actually. Yeah, obviously Leon is a massive fan of the podcast. I mean, I was expecting, you know, we was talking about it the other day, weren't we, mate? And you were saying, "Oh, have you been cancelled by the Jamaicans yet?" And I think we're getting there. I mean, we haven't had a tweet from Leon. He's not tweeted a statement, and he's not sort of sent for a witch hunt towards me. So he must listen to
Public
the podcast.
Enemy number one in Kingston, you, mate. You're banned. No Caribbean holidays for you. You can stick to mainland Europe, mate. You'll be fine.
That's why I'm going to Italy, mate. Yes. I'm going to Italy. I'm not going to bump into Leon Bailey there. But guys, what we came to talk about this video, Cameron Archer, because I don't know if you guys have been watching. I know you would have done. England under 21's got his first appearance, scored 3 and 3. And, it's just a fantastic way to round the season off for him. I've not really been a massive fan of this Nations League break and everything that we've kind of had. There's been the odd World Cup qualifier that's kind of had to have been played because of the situation in Ukraine, which is understandable. But, gearing up to the World Cup, the last thing we want is all these fixtures. But it's I think it's actually been a nice way to kind of round it out for some of the younger lads. If you look at Cam as well, he's kind of been a breakthrough campaign for him. First campaign playing senior football, a full season of it as well. I think we could. It's not really a full season, but he's had half a season out at Preston and has obviously impressed during the Carabao Cup for the Villa. But nevertheless, a breakthrough campaign for him. Obviously, at the moment, I think we've got Tim, Carney, and Aaron out with the under-19s, the under-19s Euros as well, which again is a bit mad, but it is what it is. Cam's had a fantastic season, mate, hasn't he? First of all, before we get into all of it, he's been electric, really, hasn't he?
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think he won over a lot of Villa fans with his performances in the Carabao Cup, which obviously everyone remember that goal at Chelsea. That's the one that will live long in the memory. But there was also a hat trick at Barrow, which a lot of people forget. I feel in the I think it was maybe even a couple of ties before or a tie before. We went away to Barrow and he got a hat trick in that game. But yeah, what's interesting is that obviously he scored a lot of goals for Preston, got 7 goals, 1 assist in 20 appearances down in the Championship. But what's most, honestly, I would say on a par with, or maybe even more important with that, is the amount of full 90s he's playing for Preston. You look at the game by game breakdown, and I would say a good 75-80% of the game he's playing full 90 minutes, and for a player his age, that's just as important as the goals. Going out there, getting that on the pitch experience at a very good level. We know how good the Championship can be at times. That's what's, I think, honestly, potentially more important than all the goals.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we talk about how valuable loans can be for these players. Cam's only 20 years old. I think that the famous loan move that we all sort of hark back to is Grealish at Notts County at 18. And I think there's definitely a lot the club can do to, because we've got so many talented players. We've got what's the name of the lad from Rangers we've got coming?
Rory Wilson.
Rory Wilson. He's coming through the door any minute. It's clear that the focus has and is pivoting towards talented youngsters. Let's get them out playing games. If they're good enough for the first team, great. If not, we can flog them to a Championship side. And I think, Keenan will be the first victim of that. There's been a lot of reports saying Villa will listen to offers for Cameron Archer, but only ridiculous offers, which I don't think anything will come in just yet. But, he had his loan spell at Solihull Moors and played 26 games and only scored 4 goals. And I think, we've kind of heard Cam speak about that and say how difficult the spell was. It's his first sort of spell playing, full adult football, if we can call it that. Obviously, a very decent level, Solihull, and especially for what would have been an 18-year-old at the time. Obviously not quite. I think County were in the Football League when Grealish was there. I think they were in League Two, weren't they? Yeah. So, a step below that for the Moors, but Cam's just been like a duck to water, really. He's taken it really well. And to reference that Barrow game that you mentioned, I honestly think, of course, the goal against Chelsea is phenomenal. It's so good. And the fact it's against Chelsea as well is even better. But one of the finishes against Barrow, he dinks the keeper. That composure in front of goal in your first appearance, your first start for the club, to do that for me, that was the best thing that I think I've seen from him personally. Of course, the goal against Chelsea, again, I'm not discrediting that whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, guys. But to show that kind of composure on your debut, for me, that's how I knew that this guy clearly has what it takes to be able to kind of step it up a couple gears and not yet, but as something we'll come to discuss towards the end of the podcast, mate, is be a Premier League striker.
Yeah, that's the end goal, and I think the only question now is, when does that come? is that like this is the debate that everyone's having? Is it another loan? I think a lot of Villa fans are very enamoured, and I think the fact that Ollie Watkins ramped it up towards the back end of the season, but I think it's fair to say that neither he nor Danny Ings really hit the goal tallies that we were expecting them to throughout the season. We would have liked to see it, like both of them, I think, hit the onion bag. It's not to say that their performances weren't great. It's just in terms of their great output. And that I think when we've had so many question marks over, will we have another striker coming in? Will there be another option at that number 9 spot? Will Danny Ings go? With Ollie Watkins go? When you've got a lad that's going away and seemingly scoring goals wherever he goes, be that, Preston or on England duty, especially when he's one of your own, a lot of fans find that very endearing, and I don't. But it's fantastic to see, and I think what's important is that we get the development right and we allow him and we give him a path where the last thing that we want to do is bring him into the squad and be chucking him on at 85 minutes every other game, because that's not good for him. It's not good for it's not what anybody wants. So it's an interesting conversation to have as to what the next step is for him. And I think there's arguments to be made for both another loan to a championship club and to get him some first team minutes.
It's a difficult one to know, mate, isn't it? Because as you say, I think some of that plays into the fact is 5 substitutions next season in the Premier League. That's going to be quite interesting because, Dean Smith, I was about to say Dean Smith's not about to make the same substitutions. He still will. Steven Gerrard's not going to be able to make his same safe substitutions. It's kind of got to a point where we can predict and we can, it's the same with all managers, it's the old Trezeguet off, El Ghazi on, I think we've seen a few of them and how Villa, Buendia coming on for Coutinho with 10 minutes left, Danny Ings coming off at 60 minutes. All substitutes that we can pretty much nail on every game. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of role that Cam will play. And I think, again, it depends what system Villa will play as well. Because surely if you're going to play with 2 up front, which I think is something we may well see more of, I've just got a feeling, you have to go out and get another striker. You have to have 4 strikers. It doesn't look like Keenan's going to be at the club. And, it's all gone quiet on the Luis Suarez front. It doesn't look like that's happening. Gareth Bale's been a name that's been thrown around, which, we're going to talk about in another podcast. Allow us to indulge ourselves, guys. As you say, mate, 5 minutes here and there isn't going to be valuable. The full 90s that he was getting at Preston, that's what's valuable. And just to correct myself, actually, guys, Cam 4 in 4 for England, the 21s, since making his appearance. So in 37 games this season, he scored 24 goals in all comps. Outrageous. That's ridiculous. He scored more goals than Danny Ings and Ollie Watkins combined, obviously, albeit none of them in the Premier League. It's just an interesting comparison, mate, because there's been a lot of talk about strikers, hasn't there? Which is kind of why we thought we need to talk about Cam and because he's had a fantastic season and we need to put that spotlight on him. But, we did a podcast on Darwin Núñez like 3 months ago, mate, and he's just signed for Liverpool in a deal that is worth up to 100 million euros. So, the fact we were linked with that guy, clearly it was never going anywhere, but I don't think there's anybody out there that you can get realistically that is available to buy. And I'm not talking about free transfers like with Bale and Suarez and stuff like that. I don't think there's a striker out there that Villa can get that will be the striker that fires Villa to Europe. I don't think that's the case. I think you've got Danny Ings and you've got Ollie Watkins. And if we're being realistic, you look at the striking options that the top 6 have. Gabriel Jesus, they're talking about him going to Arsenal. That'd be a great bit of business. Harry Kane, Son. I mean, Jesus, another one who's been linked with Spurs. Haaland at City. Romelu Lukaku, Timo Werner. They're talking about Sterling to Chelsea. Liverpool, obviously Núñez, Salah. Firmino is still about. Mane's going. But, but you work your way through these top 6 sides. Obviously, Ollie and Danny don't fit into them at all. I think there's maybe an argument for Danny Ings playing for like a Spurs or someone like that. But, you look at the other 14 teams in the Premier League, them 2 walk into every single one of them.
Yeah. We're in this very interesting position now where you make a very good point about the lack of striking options. And I think that's why Liverpool pulled the trigger on Nunez, because when Liverpool break the bank like that for a player, it's usually a player at the peak or just about to enter their peak. So you go and splash out on an Alisson or a Virgil van Dijk or like guys like that who you know are just about to break that level. Darwin Nunez is nowhere near a finished product. Like he's a fantastic player, but he's still a work in progress. And I think that was when they saw Haaland go, you sort of think, okay, how many other elite level strikers are there on the market right now that you can go and pick up like that? It's like Lewandowski comes to mind, but he's got his heart set on Barca and he's like 33, 34 anyway. And with Liverpool trying to move into this new era, they need players that can commit to that. There isn't a lot going on. There isn't, like, genuinely, you start looking to guys like Sebastian Haller at Ajax, but there's always the risk of bringing him back to the Premier League where he didn't do so well. There's not an elite level, like you've got the likes of Skamaka and stuff at Sassuolo, but again, works in progress. Unless you're going to go out and shell out 50, 60 million, there's not a lot out there. There's not a lot out there in terms of strikers. And I saw someone make a very good point with Eric Ten Hag, and bear with me, and how it, like, he made me sort of think about Villa in a way, because everyone's talking about how Man United need to make 7 or 8 signings to get back to the top level. But someone said, I was listening to a podcast, I can't remember who it was, but they were saying that the job of a coach is to improve the players there. How long have we been saying with United? Oh, it's a great team on paper. It's a great team on paper. You know, you can go in there, not sign anybody, and realistically, that Man United team should still be good. Like, it's like that, you know, you got Rashford, like, get Rashford going again, sort out what's going on with Martial, get Jadon Sancho sorted. You've got Cristiano Ronaldo. All of a sudden, that's a great front four. If you can get those, and it sort of made me think with Villa, it's like, we have Ollie Watkins, who we know can score goals. We've got Danny Ings, who we know can score even more goals. And so it's like, you sort of look at it and you sort of go, a job of a really good coach is not to come in and sell everybody and bring in £300 million worth of talent. It's to sort of go in and you've got a lot of tangible assets there you should be able to work with and nurture. And I think that's where, like, Camacho sort of comes in. And I think I was all on board with giving him that first team time. And then I sort of sat and thought about it the other day, and I saw that Watford were interested in him, and I saw Norwich were interested in him. And I think Norwich would be brilliant to get him into a manager that we know loves him. See, I'm on board with this. I'm on board with this because I look at what Norwich and Watford, and I think if we're going to send him back to the Championship, I want it to be a club that are winning. I want it to be like nigh Premier League level.
Is that guaranteed with Norwich right now? Because they're a mess off the field as well. I'm not sure Norwich come straight back up.
No, I'm not either. But Watford, I think, like, as long as it's a club of that ilk,
I know what you mean,
that you think are going to be competing at a top 6 level, that are winning most of their games, that are going to play an expansive style, that can, like, put him in a system where he's got quality players around him, that he can truly flourish. I don't mind. No offense to Preston. He had a great time there. I know he loves the club. I know they love him. This is no beef to Preston. It's just, I think you want to, there are a lot of clubs that are rumoured in buying him, right? There's sort of like Everton linked and stuff like that. And it's like, that's when I think players' heads start to get turned. If Everton come in and say, look, right, you can sign for us and we'll give you Premier League minutes, and Villa are going, we'd probably like to give you another year on loan to Preston. All of a sudden you're thinking, well, I'll be up to Merseyside. Cheers, boys. And we were talking about this the other day with Carney, weren't we? And that, know, a loan to League One Championship isn't going to be as tempting as like a move to Borussia Dortmund or like these crazy German clubs that he's talked with. So it's the same thing. And so it depends. I think ultimately this move depends on where Cameron Archer's head is, how willing he is to trust the process, how willing he is and like wanting he is to play for Villa at the top level one day. I think that potentially decides this too.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? All his family are Wolves, and he said in an interview that he's Villa, but that's obviously like nonsense. He's just saying that because it's like got to kind of maintain face being the local lad from the club, which is fine. Like, even if he's, I don't care. I just find it really funny. Like, he has to be Wolves. There's no way in a family of like 6 that there's 1 Villa fan and 5 Wolves fans. That's just what's the likelihood of that? It doesn't happen. I mean, unless he just quite clearly has his head screwed on, which again, could be the case. I don't know. What interests me, and again, you can't, it's unfair to compare the statistics, but I'm going to do it anyway, because of course he's playing at a lower level, and the Premier League is obviously very difficult. Look at, sorry, my notes have just froze. which is an absolute nightmare. He's averaging, mate, shots on target per 90, 2.52 shots on target per 90. And that is from 46 shots in the championship. Okay. We're looking at Ollie Watkins at 77, just about 30 more. He's only averaging 2.35 shots on target per 90 minutes. And then Danny Ings as well. Do you know what? I've absolutely fumbled it with the Danny Ings comparison, so we'll ignore that because I didn't put the correct settings on. But Danny Ings generally averages around 2.6 shots per 90 on target throughout his career. I find it interesting that he start banging in the middle of that, mate. Obviously, again, it's a different level. And I think what we've seen, you look at the goals that Cam has scored for Preston specifically, he's almost a bit of a throwback striker in the sense that he's kind of on the shoulder of the defender, finding space in the pockets. But again, we've seen the range in goals that he scored for us, the header at Chelsea, the dink at Barrow. I don't think there's anything that this kid can't do. And I think there is this just natural, you've either got it or you've not with a striker. You just know how to find the onion bag, mate. And I think Cam's got that. And I think that's invaluable. And as you say, it's going to be interesting to see where the club take this one, because I wouldn't be opposed to a loan to a Norwich or a Watford or whoever. But I think next season, mate, is first of all, Villa will look to lose a lot less games, but I can see a cup run on the cards. And I don't necessarily think whether it's in the FA Cup or the League Cup, I don't think you weaken Villa's side by putting Cam in that side, playing alongside either Ollie or Danny, to be honest.
Very good point, mate. Very good point. It's a brilliant situation where it doesn't really feel like there's a wrong answer. Do you know what I mean? Like if I wake up tomorrow morning and I see he's gone on loan to a top side in the Championship or something like that, I think brilliant. Like good for him. If we go into the first game of the season, and what is it, like August 7th or something like that, with him in the first team or on the bench, class. Like honestly, there's not really. I just think the one thing that I think I want to achieve more than anything is I want him to keep riding the wave. Like at the moment, his confidence must be sky high. He must be feeling like the dog's bollocks, walking around like he owns the place. He's going and scoring goals wherever he wants, and you want to continue that. Sort of the last thing that I'd want if he is going to stay at Villa is for him to sort of come into the first team, play a substitute role, which I think even at least initially that's what he's going to have to sort of take on. He's like, I can't imagine he's going to be shouldering Danny Ings or Ali at the team just yet. Is for him to get 20 minutes here and there, a few cup games and stuff like that. And he has to wait a month and a half, 2 months for his first goal when we can get him a few cup games or something like that, get him up to speed in the Premier League. And like you stunt that run. Like if he can go to somewhere on loan perhaps and like, it's at a level where he's used to and he can keep on scoring goals and like he's getting into double figures and stuff like that, then to have him come back, that's a really powerful weapon. But it's a very interesting conversation to have. And as I said, I think both are a right answer. I think it ultimately depends on how he feels in his game, how he feels in himself, and like what promises he wants from the club, because that would be 3 seasons on loan in a row. And players want to settle down. Players want to feel like they've got a home, and that's totally understandable. And obviously I know that playing for Solihull is like, we're not sending him off to some far distant land, but the point stands is that, it's a club where like, they're on a temporary basis. Preston was a little bit different, and it's good that he's finding a home in these places and he seems to settle down and find it very comfortable. I think, again, I hate to keep saying this because I want to give people a definitive answer, but pre-season is going to be huge. Pre-season is huge. Like if he can come in and impress, and we see undoubtedly he'll get minutes in friendlies, and I think that's where it will be told. If he comes in and scores in these friendlies and, like he goes on tour with the boys to Australia and stuff like that, he can get a goal against Leeds United on something or that. And obviously, we've got the friendly against Walsall. Burton will probably be in there somewhere. Those boys, if he can start bagging, then I think you've got a first team run on the cards. If his minutes are a bit sparing and he's not like quite in favour, I think we'll see a loan. So it'd be really interesting to watch what happens in the coming months.
And when you talk about riding that wave, stick with me here when I talk about Erling Haaland, guys. He scored goals for Molde. He scored goals for Salzburg. Just as everybody's talking about him, he gets to move to Leipzig. Same thing happens again. He's scoring the goals. He gets to move to Sorry, it went to Leipzig. But you know what I mean? His career has so far gone in a way where he is riding that wave. And the transfer to Manchester City at this time right now, it makes absolutely perfect sense because he scored an absolute bag ton of goals for Borussia Dortmund. He's had a few injuries, of course, but while he's still very much, you know, sort of in the public consciousness, he's gone and moved to, you know, one of the most successful clubs in the Premier League at the moment. So Cam's next move, obviously not permanently, hopefully, fingers crossed, tap on wood, he finds the right club where he can get, as you say, mate, the full 90s. Then he starts scoring goals. You know, if he's going to a championship club, mate, genuinely, I would look at the bookies odds for like 15 plus goals, see what they're saying, and I'd lump a tenner on it because the kid knows how to score. Give him a full season. I'm sure he'll be up there in terms of top scorers in the championship. But guys, let us know your thoughts on the Cameron Archer situation in the comment section down below. We'd love to know. And it's good to be back for you guys. We've hopefully got a few more things coming out. And as Dan mentioned at the top of the podcast, if anything breaks over the next week, you have got Dan to talk you through that. So yeah, as I said earlier, if you enjoyed this, hit a like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more. Up the better.